Alright, the Islanders are in an interesting situation the next couple of years. So this 2020 offseason, we've got Martin, Brassard, Kunakal, Andy Green, Thomas Greiss all going. They're unrestricted free agents. And then we have our restricted free agents and Matt Barzal, Ryan Pulock, Devon Tays. So right now we have $12.6 million to work with, and we have at least three guys to sign from our restricted free agents. And personally, I don't think that any of the unrestricted free agents come back. So the first thing that the Islanders have to do is trade Nicoletti. I think Nicoletti could go to a team that has a lot of cap space, like the Kings, the Devils, and Ottawa are all great choices for us to dump off some cap space too. Some recent cap dumps have been guys like PK Subban and JT Miller have been dumped off for their caps, both getting two second rounders and a third and a fifth rounder respectively. So I think Letty could see closer to that third and a fifth rounder range. He's still very valuable, maybe a fourth and a fifth rounder, but I could see him getting the same as JT Miller because he still has legs. He works well in this system. He's a veteran. He's a champion. He's been playing pretty well. It's just the fact that we can't pay him, and we have a ton of young defensemen that need some ice time. So Letty gets traded to one of those organizations. So that'll free up $5.5 million of cap space, bringing our cap space from 12.6 to 18.1. All right, so starting from there, we have a bunch of extra guys, but we have the main crew kind of still staying the same. Um, so I think first comes in Sorokin. Sorokin's gonna come over. Most guys his age on an entry level deal are getting $2.3 million a year for 3 years. That's what I see Sorokin getting is about that. It's gonna kind of suck because he probably thinks he deserves more, but that's the going rate right now, and we're kind of tight on cap space. But I think that works out just fine. Ryan Pulock. So Ryan Pulock is an interesting situation. He I think is someone that we have to sign for a longer term, and guys are going for his rate from anywhere. I think Zach Werenski was a guy who I based him off of. He's getting about $5 million a year. I think Zach Werenski is a better defenseman than Ryan Pulock, but I think Ryan Pulock has a right to be in the same classification as Zach Werenski. So I'm giving Pulock a 4.25 per year for 4 years. Devon Tays, I think, is a fairly easy one. I think he gets two a year, and I think that's a two, maybe a 3 year contract. Um, he's kind of just in a weird situation. I think they'll probably want to give him 3 years to lock him up for a little bit longer. But he's a guy who doesn't. He plays really good hockey, and it's good behind the scenes and stuff. But I don't think that he's really getting more than that because you still have guys like Pellick and Mayfield. Pellick needs to get paid, and Mayfield recently gotten paid, and he's getting paid more than Mayfield, less than Pulock, and Pellick's probably going to get about as much as Pulock, or maybe more, but we'll get into it. So at that point, I think you have 9.55 to work with for Barzal. An interesting situation that we could do to try to free up even more cap space is trade Hickey or Ladd. So Hickey would free up 2.5, which would actually kind of give us space to just throw the fucking world at Barzal. At that point, Barzal could get like that $11 million contract a year. But it's interesting because he's a restricted free agent. Typically, I've been seeing restricted free agents go for as low as $6.5 million a year. Um, I'd like to think that Barzal's worth more. Um, I so the max is a 9.5, and I think that'll be for 4 years because that's when, um, in that 2024 off season is when things kind of break up. And I'll get to how we could do this contract, the 4 year contract, as a bridge to him then getting a max contract um, at that time, because at that point, guys are going to be getting paid like a lot, and the Islanders are going to be in a different situation. So obviously, every player wants the term, but we'll see. As a 22-year-old, he'll be 26. That's a pretty regular contract to kind of flow into. So this offseason, trade Letty, sign Sorokin, Pulak, Tays, Barzy, and you have like no cap space, which is fine. That's not really that big of a deal. Um, and unless that there's a good player that you want to pick up that's willing to play for a league minimum, $700,000, like Jason Spezza going to Toronto, being like an extra dude. I think the lines next year, I mean the top six are Bailey, Barzy, Lee, Bayou, Nelson, Eberle. You can mix it around however it goes. We have Leo, Pageau, maybe Bellows ends up getting that spot and playing a little bit more next season. You could also put in fucking Ladd, Dowcole if you want, depending on the matchup. And then the fourth line, you have Cizikas, Ross the Boss, and Cal Clutterbuck. And then defense, you'll have Dobson coming in for the role for Nick Leddy. Pulak Pelech will be your top pair, and then you have Dobson Boychuk as your second pair. And your third pair could be Tays Mayfield. You could get rid of Thomas Hickey, like I was talking about. And then you'll have your young guys like Holstrom, Wallstrom, maybe Bodwile get some play. And then you'll have Varlamov and Sorokin. Solid, solid. You know, you're keeping the core together. You don't have to bring in anything crazy. And I don't really think that they'll bring anything at all. They don't. It's not the. Like I was saying, unless you're playing for a league minimum, I don't think so. Um, some interesting things I saw while I was looking up some free cap spaces. I mean, Detroit has 37, Ottawa, like I said, 42, New Jersey, like 50 something, and the Kings, I think, we had like close to 60, which when I looked it up didn't, but this article said it did. But either way, there are teams out there that could take on his contract. Um, Calgary is actually an interesting place because I think Travis Hamonick's contract is up this year, and I don't think that they really would want Nick Leddy, but I think Nick Leddy could be shopped in a team that's not like a dead end team at this point, and he could go somewhere that he can still bring value and go towards a cup. But I think he'll probably end up going to a worse team that can kind of just eat this cap. So moving on to 2021, 22 free agency. So we have an estimated cap limit of 89 million is what I went with. Um, Depends on it's because that's the 84 plus 5, which is about what they see. I think this was so this is in 2 years because nothing really happens in that next year. It really kind of transforms after that year. So we got the 21-22. So our estimated cap limit is going to be 89. So we'll have $14 million in cap space. So we have guys like Bayou, Koivula, Dalcoles, Zeker, and Pelech. This is when I see Pelech getting like a 4-year, $20 million contract. I think he plays his ass off next year, and we sign him to a longer deal. Zeker, I want to say it's going to sign for like a 2 by $6 million, keeping like a $3 million per year. I think that would drop him down $500,000 a year, but I think that's something that he comes together and signs for. Dow Cole, $1 million a year, 2 years. Bayou, I think it's like a 3 by 9, $3 million a year. Bellows gets depends on how Bayou does next season, but I don't see his value being like a 4 million, like not at all. I see him at like about $3 million is about his worth right now. Like a borderline 20-goal scorer, I think that's about right. Then you have Bellows, who at that point really is only gonna have one season under his belt, so he'll probably end up with like a 1 mil, maybe like 1.5, but not that much. And then Koivula, I think he'll just be like a scratch every game. Probably like 900K, maybe $1 million. So the following season, this is when some contracts start to let loose. So 22, 23 free agency. So guessing for an increase of the cap by +3, and we have $21 million in cap space. Our unrestricted free agents are Cal Clutterbuck, Leo Komarov, which right there is like 6.5 million. Ross the Boss, Boychuk and Letty. So if we haven't gotten rid of Letty already, this is the time. So Boychuk and Letty are gone, which then frees up fucking even more space. And then Hickey. So at this point, and this is including we had just gotten the Barzal contract done. It might shift things a little bit, but this is kind of where things start to kind of go down. So, and then we have our other restricted free agents like Holstrom, Wallstrom, and Bodwile. And then Noah Dobson has to get paid this year too. All contracts that I think can be and will be accounted for. So some notable unrestricted free agents that year we got, because this is the first time the Islanders could really shop if they wanted to, but I don't think they'll do that, but I'll get to that. So we got Malkin, Giroux, Phil Kessel, Bobby Ryan, Johnny Gaudreau, Philip Forsberg, Andrei Barkov, Tom Hurdle, Zibanejad, Palat, Riley Smith, Kadri, Couturier, Perron, Brian Rust, Boone Jenner, Raquel, and Perron. And then we got some defensive guys coming through, like Subban, Parenko, Jones, Ristolainen, Lindholm, Riley, Dahan, which would be interesting, having him come back to the island. Klingberg, Manson, Oli Mata. Like, I mean, there's a bunch of fucking dudes. Kempe, Adam Fox is actually going to be an unrestricted. He's kind of young to be an unrestricted free agent, but and I don't remember how to pronounce his name, but it's like Chiarot, Charot. I don't know. Sorry if I butchered that. And I see the Islanders kind of needing only a few pieces. So I think the Wallstrom Dobson, I think both of those happen. I think they both get like 2 year. We'll see how it goes though. But I think they both again get like 2 year, like 3 year contracts. But we'll see where that goes. They might still be restricted free agents. They might still be on a 2-way contract. I don't know what their legacy is going to be at that time. I think they sign like some scrapper. Maybe Ross the Boss comes back. Maybe not. They sign a scrapper for like $1 million a year. Something like that. Something light. So now at this point you went from 25, you're at 19.9. You probably need 2 forwards and 2 defensemen. I think because Boychuk and Letty are gone, you have Dobson, you have Tays, you have Mayfield, Pellick, Pulak, that's 5. Maybe Boldwild steps into the lineup. But I think you can get some older guys who are kind of looking to come in as like a veteran role. And you get guys like Bertuzzo and that guy I was speaking of before, I can't pronounce his name. They come in. Bertuzzo right now is on like a $1.5 million a year salary, which if he's getting that now, I don't see why he wouldn't take it as he gets older. So I could see the same type of contract going his way. The guy whose name I can't pronounce, I think he could get like a 3-year deal just to solidify, the back end. And then you sign Holstrom and Bodwild, or maybe Noah Dobson come out to become something better, and you don't have to sign one of those guys. And the 1.5 for Bertuzzo could go to Noah Dobson, and then all of a sudden he's getting 3.5. I don't know what's gonna happen, but that's like a playroom. You could sign 2 or 3. They have a decent amount of depth that they can play with right now, because their top is solidified. They just need depth at this point. I think as those guys come up, either you pay them or you don't have to pay them and you can go and grab someone free agency. Once we finally get some fucking money on our hands, because we got some bad contracts that are finally starting to let up. So Bodwild, and at that point, you have $11.2 million. I think you don't even do anything. I think you just keep that shit. Obviously, sign a guy to a 1 year fucking $11 million contract. If fucking if Getty Malkin is like, hey, I want to fucking come play for the Islanders, give me $11 million for 1 year, and then I leave. Like, yeah, I'm gonna, yeah, I'll fucking do that, man. But then, or you could try to like save some money going into the next cap, but then the year after that, say we spend everything. I think the upper limit at this point, we're at 84, and the 4 year periods typically the cap goes up $10 million, as per like the past decade or so. So the upper limit is going to be about 94 million. We'll have $23.2 million in cap space. We'll have unrestricted free agents. This is when Ladd's contract comes out. Mayfield and Zeker will have to be redone. And then you'll have some lower guys like Dowcole, Bellows, Koivula. Maybe they end up getting paid. And then this is the point in which Barzal gets like that 11 times 8, but it'll probably be more by then. I mean, it's hard to tell 4 years from now what's going to happen, but in my fucking crazy mind, that's what I think is gonna. That's how I think it's gonna go down. So just a quick overview. I think it goes this off season, 2021. I mean, sorry, I'm not 1920. Whatever happens with the coronavirus, I don't fucking know. So Sorokin comes 2.3 a year for 3 years, which means that he'll have to be signed that last off season too. But whatever. Pulak 4.25 for 4 years. Tays gets a 2x2. Barzy gets a 9.5 by 4, which actually also means that they'll have to resign. Whatever. It's close enough. I forgot to put Tays in for that 21-22 thing. I think that's how it works. But whatever, it's not a big deal at the moment. Tays is not like a groundbreaking contract that destroys this whole fucking infrastructure. So 21-22 free agency. I think Pellet gets his long-term deal. I think Zeker resigns, and I think all the younger, I shouldn't say lower, that kind of degrades them. All the younger players, Dalco, Bayu, Bellows, Koivula, I think they get some shorter-term contract with low amount of money. Probably a decent amount of them will be restricted free agents. Bayu will probably end up being an unrestricted free agent by the end of that one. And then that's when the 22-23, this is when we have to really start making some moves, or a lot of cap space starts to kind of free up for us. And I think that's when Wahlstrom, Dobson, Holstrom, and Bodwild all get re-signed. Maybe we end up picking up Bertuzzo and fucking the guy's name I can't pronounce. Charot, whatever it is. So we could pick up a couple free agents then. I wouldn't see us signing any like free agents really that much until this time comes, unless we don't sign Zeker and we sign someone else. That then leaves us with $11.2 million left in that cap space. And that transferring to the year after, we have like 12 point something, and then you add 11 to that, including the estimated cap raise for 4 year standards is about 10. That is the moment where the Ladd contract goes, and you really don't have a whole lot of people to sign. Although people who are on their like last year of that 24-25, I think is like all the guys we have just recently signed: Lee, Bailey, Pajot, Brock Nelson will all have those 2 years left. But that's when Barzy comes in and hopefully resigns. He'll probably become the captain maybe a couple years after that, potentially. And we are able to keep Barzy on a close to max contract. I would see him getting a contract at that time close to what Connor McDavid is getting paid now. Maybe a little more. Maybe he'll end up getting 13 a year. Maybe he'll get like that Panarin deal. Who knows? Who knows how good he's gonna be? Hopefully, he wins a couple fucking chips, and hopefully, he sticks around, man. Fuck yeah, Matt Barzal. Go Islanders.